Hello, students, and welcome back to Educational Technology. This week, we are all about planning. We're taking this week to focus on developing a robust, scaffolded plan for your WebQuest problem or project-based learning experience you're designing for your content and or grade level. And so there's a weekly video which you're watching right now. But really, the focus here is plan, 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 plan. Spend this week diving into the materials, writing it up, and even taking a moment to step back and decide, is this what I really want to do? Is this beneficial to me as I'm moving forward in my classroom? This Prezi will provide you with some considerations as you're working on planning this WebQuest PBL that you need to consider as you close in on the final product you're going to create. And to that end, we have two wheels to consider here. We've got the project-based teaching practices that are very important to make sure you're addressing in your PBL, and we have the essential project design elements of what makes up the scaffolded PBL WebQuest. Beginning with the question. Is your question challenging? Does it initiate students to ask further questions? If the question is too simplistic, if it's a yes or a no question, if it's too easily answered, it's not big enough. I've provided a handout of possible compelling questions that you may consider. Also, I've been working with you on your Google Documents to try to step back and ask those big questions. What are the questions that we can ask of students? What are the problems we can present them with that will engage them in a task that is actually sustained inquiry? If the question's not big enough, then the inquiry won't last. They won't be able to plan, do, and review. They won't be able to engage the big six or the super three for any length of time. This should be a strongly sustained inquiry project, not something they can go and find. It's not, remember, it is not a scavenger hunt. It is having students find evidence to support their answers to a larger compelling question or solving a larger problem. And that inquiry must be sustained. There have to be new questions. So your compelling question should ask separate sub-questions. It can't just be a one and done. Students have to think. They have to communicate, collaborate. They have to critically think and then create their answer or create their final product. And that final product should be done authentically. If the compelling question is strong and the inquiry is sustained, then students can do the work of your content area. They can become geographers, they can become economists, they can be zookeepers, they can become environmentalists, they can become naturalists, scientists. They can become judges and lawyers. They can make arguments. They can make decisions. The experience should be as authentic as possible, which is why the context is so important. You want to build a world that your student steps into so that they can authentically engage with the materials you're presenting to them. This is not a collection of worksheets. This is not a sit at your desk and work on your computer assignment. This is a collaborative assignment where students are communicating with each other, working together in an authentic group experience. All students have roles to perform. What is their role? What is that task that you have them addressing in an authentic fashion? And a part of that authenticity is that students have voice and choice. In your PBL WebQuest, do the students have a voice? Is it their voice? Or are you forcing them into a corner? Are you telling them this is how you're going to answer it? Do they have a choice? Do they have a choice in the topic? Do they have a choice in the question? Do they have a choice in the tools that they're using? Do they have a choice in how they express themselves? Students need to have a voice and choice in order for it to be authentic, so that the inquiry is sustained, and that all starts with that compelling question. Students also need a chance to reflect. If you notice through this semester and in the major projects, there's a place for you to reflect on your experience. It's not always about the answer. It's not always about what they end up with. It's how they got there. And you want to make sure students have an opportunity to share how they got to that answer. In fact, you might even say, this is where students show their work. We think about math problems where we make them write it all out. Or as teachers, we make you in college write out your lesson plan all the way. It's because we need to see it. The reflection is where students can think about their own critical thinking process, and they can address the ups and the downs. The reflection even might come at multiple points. And you might have students work for a while and then kind of reassess, work some more and reassess. Having a reflection component of your PBL WebQuest is essential because it allows students to critique and revise. You want to provide them with a chance. No product is final. No ending is the end. The learning process and the process of a PBL WebQuest is cyclical. And so you want to give them a chance to critique their work. When they submit something, that shouldn't be the end, much like this course. If you recall, you always have a chance to go back and redo it. I give you this opportunity because that's part of the learning process. In this PBL WebQuest, as students are addressing that central problem to solve or answering that question that you've asked them, as they're asking questions and finding evidence, as they're doing their research and putting it all together, in an authentic situation where they have voice and choice, they have the chance to reflect, and through that reflect, they critique themselves, they critique each other, and then they can revise. They can actually make something better than what they had. Grading and assessment should never be punishment. The point of teaching is to help students learn how to learn, not to say, well, you didn't do it, so you get an F. And to that end, when they make a product, it should be public. As they're critiquing and reflecting, whatever it is they're making has to be for a public audience. You as the teacher are not the central person. It's the public, which is why the compelling question should be larger than the classroom, should be larger than you and what you want to do. The product they make, the answer they provide, whatever they do with it should be public. It's for the whole school. It's for the community. It's global. So you should be thinking about, what am I having them create? A test is not the end of a PBL. A quiz is not the end of a PBL. A research paper is not the end of a PBL. It should be a creative product. They should create something. The very top of Bloom's taxonomy. We want students to create, and a test is not creation. A test is a check of low-level memorization skills. We want this to be a public product that they share with others. Now, those are the key elements and the key components of a PBL. You as the teacher should also be following these parts. The designing and planning is where you are right now, which includes aligning to the standards. Some of these things you can't do just yet. In your classroom, you want to build a culture of learning. You want to build a culture of communication and collaboration. That was our first minor assignment. What is that learning environment you're creating? You'll learn how to manage your activities as you teach, and you'll scaffold that student learning. That's a part of the designing and the planning and the standards alignment, but also sometimes it takes running it a few times in the room to really understand how to scaffold and then assess while you're engaging in coaching. So these project-based teaching practices are something to consider. However, mostly what we're looking at is the designing, the planning, the standards, and then how you're scaffolding those learning opportunities and experiences in the classroom. But you want to make sure at the end of the day, you're starting in that content with your standards. You're identifying that central concept from which you're going to draw the compelling question and then perhaps sub-questions. The pedagogical approach is PBL. You're developing a project or problem-based learning experience within your content, which is why in the past couple of weeks I've had you writing in that Google document. I've been trying to push all of you. Unpackage the standards, find where there's a robust collection of content that can lend itself to a project. And then finally, how do we integrate the digital tools that will allow students to communicate, collaborate, critically think, and create? Please take note. This is a major project. You cannot pass this course without completing this project. I need to see a full planning document. I need to see substantial reflection, and I need to see examples of the student's work. So you are not only creating the web quest, you're not only building a website, but you also have to complete it as if you were the student. That is essential, and that's what kicks it up into that major project arena, because you're beta testing. You're going to build a web quest, and then you have to actually do it. That will help you figure out where the bugs are, where it doesn't really work, and of course, as you critique, revise. And so I'm having you go through the process of a PBL as you're designing your own PBL web quest. Students, have a wonderful week. Focus on the planning, and let me know if you have any questions. Please email me. I'll talk to you soon.